Welcome to Mrs. Peach Thrifty Living. I'm so happy you're here today. I hope you enjoy episode 13 of A Glimpse of My Life. Boy, time has flown. I've went all over the country and I'm going to be telling you about moving to Brunswick, Maine this time. Before I get started, I want to just remind you to please like and subscribe. If you haven't watched all the Glimpse of My Life, go back and watch them if you would and check them out. And I have much more than this. There's lots of music here, country gospel. I do a lot of shorts and I do enjoy those a lot. And my brother Glenn comes over and plays, and we've had several different ones. My daughter's played on here before. So just check out the music part. I cook here. I do grocery hauls, shopping, all kinds of things, and I hope you enjoy it. And I got my handy dandy notes. I had to get another notebook. The other one was full. I had written other ideas in there and several things there, so it was full, so I went and got just a little plain one that I can fold back and use real easily. After about 4 years in Florida, then my husband got an assignment to move on. Remember, he was in the Navy. So this time he got orders to move to a Navy base in Brunswick, Maine. I think the Navy must have moved us that time because I don't remember us moving ourselves there. He had been in for quite a while by then, and I think they paid for it or close to paid for it, and so we had a little bit more furniture at that time. So when we got to Brunswick, Maine, we was going to be able to live in base housing, but it wasn't quite ready. So they had some. It's kind of like motels. I don't know what the name of them that they call them, but we had to stay there for some time. I don't know, this 2 or 3 weeks. You know, all this is 50 years ago, at least, or thereabouts. A lot of this memories are coming back as I'm telling them and as I'm writing them down. Some of the highlights there, and they might not be in all order. And by the way, it's really hot here today. It's 102 outside, and I turned the fans off because I don't want all the extra noises in here when I'm videoing, and so it is a little warm, so hopefully I won't be starting to drip sweat here. Okay, back to my story. I got a job at McDonald's. It was my first time working at McDonald's. And over the years, you'll see that I've worked at a few more than that. But I enjoyed it. It was early in the morning, and I worked there for quite some time. I don't know if it was the whole time, but quite a while. And we got moved into our base housing. My husband, you know, he was in the military, the Navy. He was always chasing his dream. There was always a dream. He wanted to be rich. He was, I guess, rich or wealthy. We never made it to there, believe me, but he was very smart and he had a lot of good ideas floating around in that head of his. We was presented the Amway plan, and I know probably everybody has heard of Amway, and it's been good in many ways. Well, my husband was in. He signed up and we was going to make our million. Well, so we began inviting people. You know, of course, he worked on his job in his Navy. He'd go in wherever he was supposed to go in the daytime, but evenings were free, the majority of them. And so we would invite people over to show the plan. Hey, we got pretty good at showing that plan. Well, of course, we never made much money, period, on that. We got a few people that signed up, and there were some good products. I will say that for it. We did go on one trip to, it was Vermont, and we seen, I think it was Doug Weed if I'm not mistaken, it was Doug Weed, and he was in Amway, very big at that time. Wonderful. We had a wonderful time at this meeting in Vermont, and it was like a little mini vacation for the two of us. One of those times that we had everybody, a few, I don't know how many, over. As we had people come over, I always served them coffee and cake or iced tea or whatever. I've always been a hostess like that, to make sure somebody had something to eat when they come to my house. I don't know that I ever didn't serve something whenever someone came. We decided to make a pineapple cake. Well, actually it was a cake, probably just a cake mix. And I made this glaze of pineapple, you know, where you take the crushed pineapple and you put some more sugar in it and thicken it up with cornstarch or whatever, and then you had a glaze. I put that glaze, and I don't think I used it all. I put it on the cake, got it all ready for that night, and I will back up right here now and tell you that we had a dog. I didn't necessarily want to have an indoor dog, and evidently it was, because we were on base. And this dog, really, it was like 3 against 1. So I'm the odd one out. So I didn't. Anyway, we had the dog, and I got to where I really liked the dog, but he was a puppy at the time. I didn't know this till many years later. While I was gone to the store, my hubby and I, that dog got up on the table and licked the frosting off that cake. Well, I didn't know that. So when I get home, and we get home, and we have our company, I'm serving cake to everybody. How about a piece of cake? And I served my cake to everybody. I asked my gal, my daughter Gail, you want a piece of cake? No, she didn't want a piece of cake. Well, this is very unusual for Gail. She liked her cake, just like we all did. Later, she confessed. The dog ate the frosting off, and she took what frosting was left and frosted the cake, and I served it. Okay. My cake in my house now, and I serve you cake. There's no dogs licking on the cake. That was funny later. It might not have been funny then. While we lived in Brunswick, Maine, they had Bowdoin College there, which was a very, I guess, prestigious college. I understand Harriet Beecher Stowe started writing Uncle Tom's Cabin there, and they used to have the best productions, live, like almost like Broadway type productions. And so we got to go to quite a few of those, and that was really very, very enjoyable. I really loved it. And even to this day, just to get the idea to go to one of those was really fun to do. And it's been a long old time since I've been to one. We also would drive over to Freeport, Maine, and that is the home of LL Bean. And we used to visit there once in a while. They, you know, the products, many of you, I'm sure, recognize that name. They have some wonderful sporting goods, and they're top quality. You can't find, I guess, any better than that. Also would go out to dinner quite a bit there. For some reason, we both enjoyed going out to eat, and at that time we could do it. And they had the restaurants in the area that it was affordable. And I will say, you know, being Maine, we also had lobster there. Maine is known for its lobster. And we could go to some restaurants and have twin lobsters with French fries and coleslaw, probably, if I recall right, and the tartar sauce and all that, for $5.99. And of course, remember, that was many years ago, but it still was pretty affordable even at that time. And boy, was it good. I've never ate lobster anywhere else since then that I enjoyed. I think one time we got it and made it at home. And because people would be out on the side of the roads and the places selling their fresh lobster, and we had that. While we were there, we found a little church. We never did pastor or anything. We found a little church and ended up meeting some wonderful friends. To this day, there are still our friends. In the meantime, he passed on. But it was Liz and Earl French, and they were just wonderful. We spent a lot of time with them, visiting with them, and I'll remember them always for their caramel corn that she would make, and we learned how. And if I can find it, I might post this recipe. If I made, she'd pop the popcorn and make this wonderful. But we spent a lot of time there. I'd like to tell you that everything was fantastic there, but life is not just all fun and games. Hubby and I had some problems. And I know I have not mentioned that. I've always talked good about him. There's a lot of good things to talk about. But there's things that wasn't so good. And so, at that time, I would jump ahead and then go back a little. Hubby got sent overseas to Spain for some time, and he was there, and I think he probably experienced more things than I would care to know. But he didn't come back quite the same. Of course, I want to say it never was exactly fantastically perfect. I don't just always go ahead and talk about all those things, but and I really didn't know how to say all this, so I know you're saying, well, he was a preacher. Well, yes, he was. He loved the Lord. But you know what? I just have to say this. I know the devil just jumps right in and tries to get you at your weakest point. And he's not only going to do it for my husband, he does it for anybody. So you just watch out for that. If you ever, if you're serving the Lord and you're trying to do something for the Lord, and devil's going to be there to try to stop you. He don't want you to reach out to other people. He was in Spain. When he came back, things were a little different. It wasn't perfect before, but it was not perfect then. There was some different things that I'm not going to bother to tell you everything here, but just know it wasn't the best. We did get counseling from our pastor, from Liz and Earl, or mostly Pastor Earl, and there was some good godly advice there. And for some reason, we made it through that time. So I'm happy to tell you that we did make it. And I do remember one little statement that, and I put it on my refrigerator. Do the motion till the emotion comes. We'd been through a lot, so it wasn't easy. And, trust was not, you lose your trust. And so I will just stop there on that one. The kids became friends with the Liz and Earl French's kids. They were about the same age, and they enjoyed hanging around each other. Gail, at that time, she started babysitting. And remember, she was probably, 11 or 12, I don't know, somewhere around there. And they started babysitting pretty early. And like I said, we lived on base. This is the second time I ever remember being an earthquake. I don't think I mentioned it in my other video. I'm from California, and, they're known for their earthquakes here. Well, this one, I don't remember ever being in one. It's not to say they haven't had them. You know that. You hear in the news. But particularly where I was, I never felt one. Till I was in Illinois one time. And we were holding a revival there, and I was in that one. I felt it. The wheels on the portable TV were rolling. That was the first time. The second time was when we lived in Brunswick, Maine, and we were in our little base housing, and we felt the floor moving. and that was another time that I knew I was in an earthquake. So those were the only 2 times till not long ago. Just recently, we had a little, I was sitting in my recliner and I felt it and felt like somebody was hitting under the floor. And of course, I knew nobody was here at the time but myself. So it was an earthquake. I did take up jogging with my hubby for a little while there. Didn't last very long at that. That is one thing I did not like to do. And I would have to make myself do that. So that didn't last too long. Let's see. Oh, also, Gordon got a job there. He was, I don't know, he was old enough to, I don't know if he was 13 or 14 by then. But he got a job at a restaurant washing dishes at a country club. And he would ride his bike like 17 miles to work. Once in a while, I think we might have taken him, but it was a rare day. It was mostly him riding his bike. That was a lot of things I didn't put in there because there's a lot I don't remember. And we didn't do a lot of traveling there either, if I recall right. But we had our snow there, and the falls were beautiful. And we still have our sweet friends there. And a lot of good memories there, but not so many in many ways. But God's been good to me. I'll have to say, in spite of all of this, God has been good. And as you hear the rest of my story, in the next one and the next, well, it's getting closer to another big jump in my life. So I hope you'll stay tuned for the next one. Keep watching. I pray God blesses you today. Remember, God loves you. He loves me. He kept me through everything. And I'm just thankful that He's been with me all these years, and I know He'll be with you too. Come back and join me every time. I pray God blesses you. Like and subscribe. Comment. I love your comments. I mean, if you think of something, I mean, you don't have to write me a letter. But I love it when you do send me a note and say you appreciate it, or where you're from, or whatever. Okay, I'm going to let you go this time. God bless you special.